What is up, lads? How's it going? How are you getting on? And welcome back to the channel. Don't forget, there's a Friday deadline tomorrow night, so in this video we'll be looking at my Game Week 10 review along with my transfer plans ahead of Game Week 11. If you're new to the channel, please do hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get close to 2.5k subs before the World Cup. With the intro out of the way, let's get into the video. With no half-12 kickoff, we start our review at the Etihad with Haaland and Cancelo both involved for my team. It was business as usual for Erling as he scored in the second half to bring a 12-point return from the armband. He was arguably unlucky not to get another hat-trick, hitting the post in a 1v1 and missing a few other chances in the game. João Cancelo was the hero of the game week, picking up an 18-point haul from a goal and assist and a clean sheet. He's been a bit frustrating to own in the last few weeks, but thankfully he came going to Game Week 10 and it brought a nice start to the game week. Newcastle continued their fine start to the season with a 5-1 thumping against Brentford. Kieran Trippier has been a joy to own over the last few game weeks. And his assist early on means he's got 2 attacking returns in his last 3 games. He also hasn't blanked in his last 4. I wish I could say the same for Nick Pope, as Newcastle conceded another frustrating goal from the spot that wiped out my double Newcastle defensive clean sheet. A lot was expected from Rhys James, as Chelsea were the bookie favourites to keep a clean sheet against Wolves. It was a frustrating watch as Chelsea kept their clean sheet, but James only made an appearance late on. This substitution ended up in me losing out in Pereira's goal against West Ham, so it was definitely an annoying climax to the game at the Bridge. After some great returns in Game Week 9, I was expecting at least one return from James Maddison against the worst defence in the league, but it wasn't to be as he blanked and also picked up a yellow card. It also now means that Maddison has picked up 4 yellow cards and he's on a suspension tightrope. I'll be hoping he can stay away from getting a booking this weekend, as he is definitely a candidate for the armband in Game Week 12. Moving on to the late kickoff, Kane was the main man once again for Spurs as he scored the only goal in a 1-0 win. He's been ticking along nicely since I brought him in on the wildcard, and amazingly he's only blanked once this season. This is the week I hope he shines against Everton, as a lot of managers have picked De Bruyne over him. He picked up a goal and assist last night, so I'll be hoping he brings this form into Saturday evening. Moving on to Sunday's games, my major differential Jared Bowen continued his fine form with another goal. I spoke a lot about him last week potentially being on penalties for West Ham, and thankfully he stepped up and slotted it away. He's now got 2 goals and an assist over the last 2 game weeks, and I'll be hoping he can continue this form against Southampton on Sunday. With the news of Mitrovic being left out of the Fulham squad, I had to hope for a Palace clean sheet with Anderson coming into my team. It wasn't to be, as Leeds scored early on. Anderson picked up the Man of the Match award, but unfortunately you don't get any points for that in fantasy. Also, after a frustrating few weeks of owning Zaha, thankfully he got an assist late on, and Palace now have a great run of fixtures, so I'm hoping he can kick on and get amongst the returns over the next few game weeks. Game Week 10 concluded at the Emirates, with Martinelli being the main man once again, picking up a goal and assist against Liverpool. He's been a joy to own all season, and I'll be looking to keep him in my team for the blank game week, as Arsenal have a great run of fixtures up until the World Cup. With all of these returns, I ended up with a score of 74 points, and I'm now sitting at 213k overall, and hope to get into the top 100k ahead of Game Week 12. Looking ahead to tomorrow's deadline, FPL Salah has provided us with the clean sheet odds for Game Week 11. Wolves and Spurs top the charts facing Forest and Everton, while Arsenal are the most favoured team to score with Leeds sitting bottom. Going by the odds, it's slightly worrying for my defence this week, with Newcastle, Palace and City all in the bottom half. After his rest midweek, it's no surprise Haaland tops the charts for a goal this weekend. I'm delighted to see my other 2 strikers and Kane and Mitrovic ranking 2nd and 3rd, so I'll be hoping the Serbian is a clear fit for this weekend. Martinelli and Zaha also make the top 20 players, so I'll be hoping I can see their names on the score sheet in Game Week 11. With Rhys James likely to miss Sunday's trip to Aston Villa, and the fact Game Week 12 falls midweek, there's a big chance he'll also miss out in Game Week 12. Here's who I'd be advising on transferring in if it's confirmed he's out until Game Week 13. If you don't have Trippier in your team, he's the easy swap for James. He hasn't blanked in the last 4 games, and even though Newcastle are conceding, he's still coming away with attacking returns. I wouldn't expect a clean sheet this weekend against Man United, but there's every chance he can get 1 or 2 attacking returns over his next 3. If your team is in good shape for the blank game week, I'd advise bringing in Saliba this week. I know Arsenal blank in Game Week 12, but they have a great run of fixtures up until the World Cup, so if you can afford a bench in Game Week 12, I'd bring him in this week. If you're looking for cheaper alternatives, I'd advise on Anderson with Palace's lovely run of fixtures. He's just returned back from injury and he was unlucky not to score at the end of the Leeds game at the weekend. I'll be doubling up on Palace defence in Game Week 12, so I'll be hoping to keep a clean sheet that week. If you're only looking for cover for Game Week 12, I'd advise on looking towards Brighton assets for the fixture against Forest. Dunk is probably your main man with a chance of attacking returns, so I'd go for him. Just be wary, you'll probably be benching him for most weeks after, with Brighton's poor run of fixtures in Game Week 13 and 14, where they face Chelsea and City. With Game Week 11 fast approaching, here's a few tips I'll be advising on ahead of tomorrow's deadline. With the uncertainty on Mitrovic's match fitness, I'd wait until Friday for an update, but I'd start him for now and make sure you've cover on your bench. Trippier is a standout pick for James, as discussed earlier in the video, and make sure to plan your transfers around the blank Game Week 12, but also think about Game Week 13 onwards. Arsenal have a great run of fixtures after Game Week 12, so be very wary on transferring out Martinelli and other assets. With Haaland missing out in Game Week 12, it's the first chance to go differential with captaincy. If you want to captain a certain player in Game Week 12, make sure you have them in your team or work your transfers this week in the hope of getting that player next week. If a player is injured for game week 11, it's very likely they'll miss game week 12 with games midweek. I take note of this when deciding what to do with Rhys James this week. Lastly, if you have Perisic in your team, I'd hold him for this week after his rest midweek. I've got 2 free transfers ahead of tomorrow's deadline, so I'll be waiting until tomorrow's press conferences to hear the news about James and Mitrovic before I make my moves. For now, my team is as follows: Pope in goals, James, Cancelo and Trippier in defence, Martinelli, Maddison, Zaha and Bowen in midfield, and Mitrovic, Haaland and Kane up top. Looking at captaincy for the weekend, it has to be Haaland after his rest midweek. If you want to bet against him, Kane or Maddison are good shouts, but I advise on playing it safe for the man who hasn't blanked yet this season. If you've made it to the end of the video, please drop the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and drop us a comment below. I'll be streaming tomorrow evening before the deadline, so come and join me and send in your questions. There you have it, there's my team for Game Week 11. Best of luck for Game Week 11, I'll see you in the next video.